Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Beadle. The Southern Tier is under day 2 of a heat advisory, and doctors caution that you should keep an eye out for any heat-related illnesses. Matt Kleindienst joins us from Corning tonight with how you can stay safe during this heat wave.
Good evening, Scott. Doctors say the increased heat and humidity can increase the likelihood for heat exhaustion or heat stroke, especially among vulnerable populations.
We have hazy, hot, and humid.
In Corning, temperatures soared well above 90 degrees for the second day in a row. Dr. John Rittenberger warns that the heat can exacerbate underlying health conditions in some residents.
Breathing problems, heart problems. Some folks with diabetes, if they get, dehydrated.
He says the humidity in particular poses a big risk during heat waves. High humidity makes it harder for people to cool themselves by sweating compared to drier conditions.
So your body has more trouble dissipating the heat off because of the heat. It also has more trouble with evaporative lossing because it's so humid.
Dr. Rittenberger says prolonged exposure to the heat could bring about illnesses such as heat exhaustion or worse, heat stroke.
When you stop sweating, you're in deep trouble. That is because your body has lost the capacity to actually sweat and get rid of additional heat. And so you will essentially just start to boil up at that point.
He says it's important that residents take precautions such as staying hydrated and using AC in your home to avoid heat-related illnesses.
Limit your exposure. Certainly if you are someone with other medical problems, you need to be particularly careful at this time.
Anyone experiencing heat stroke is asked to seek medical attention right away. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Steuben County will be receiving more than $18 million in federal funding over the next year. That money comes from the recently passed American Rescue Plan. According to the county, most of the money will be used for public works projects that had been deferred during the pandemic. The county has 3 years to decide where that federal money will be spent. Watkins Glen police say they're looking for this man in connection with an assault on Sunday. According to police, the suspect followed another man back to his home and proceeded to beat him as a result of a road rage incident. The suspect then left on a motorcycle. The victim was taken to the hospital with cuts and bruises to his face and legs. If you have any information about this incident, you are asked to call the Watkins Glen police. A 7-year-old boy was one of 3 people injured in an upstate New York shooting Monday night. Police say a 47-year-old shot in the back is expected to survive. A 33-year-old woman was also hurt, but it was unclear if her injuries were caused by a bullet or glass. All 3 victims were transported to a hospital in a private vehicle. At last word, that child was in critical but stable condition. The mayor of Syracuse is keeping tabs on the situation.
What we know now is at least 2 people were shot, including a 7-year-old boy. I was just up at the hospital. The boy is currently critical but stable, so praying for him.
This is just the latest incident in a string of shootings in Syracuse. An 11-month-old died there in a shooting in April. Several other young people have died in the recent gun violence, including a 15-year-old killed just last week. 10 years after 11 bodies were found in a New York beach town in what could be a serial killer case, no arrests have been made. Now, a lawmaker is calling for an investigation into those working to solve the crimes. Carolyn Gussoff reports.
There are far too many conflicts and questions that are still in place 10 years later.
Calls for a new approach to solve Long Island's darkest mystery, the remains of 11 people found along Ocean Parkway, a suspected serial killer never caught. New York State Senator Phil Boyle is calling for a special prosecutor to investigate the way the murders were investigated.
Where were you on the night of? Did anybody ever do that with Chief Burke?
Then Police Chief James Burke, later convicted in an unrelated crime, raised suspicions when he barred the FBI from assisting.
Has Chief James Burke ever been cleared? I think the people of Suffolk County and the people of this nation that are interested in this case deserve to know.
Boyle's demanding answers from Suffolk Police and Suffolk County Executive Steve Bellone.
He kept James Burke as his police chief realizing the full time that Burke was not doing everything in his power to investigate this case. Who in their right mind would kick the FBI out of a serial killing investigation?
Burke's attorney calls that a publicity-seeking and politically motivated hit job on Burke. A spokesman for County Executive Bellone says, "We're not going to respond to what is nothing more than a political charade. Residents agree it's time for answers."
Any one of these women could have been my child, my mother, my aunt, my anybody.
It was the search for missing escort Shannon Gilbert that turned up the killing field. Gilbert's sister told me it's about time they get this thoroughly investigated and stop the rug sweeping. These victims need justice. The attorney long representing the Gilbert family says he too would welcome the Attorney General, the FBI, and the Justice Department, and a clean sweep of the homicide team investigating the murders for years.
Fire the people who've been on this case for years, get them off the case, and bring in new blood.
Bellone says he did fire Burke and calls the investigation into the killings the highest priority.
Search and rescue efforts continue for a 6th day in Surfside, Florida. It's a race against the clock, as officials admit the chances of finding survivors grows slimmer by the hour. Families of the missing are desperately seeking news of their loved ones and demanding answers over what caused this tragic condo collapse. Daryl Forges is in Surfside with the latest.
The death toll is rising in Surfside, along with the desperation and grief.
I was just praying to God that they went quick and that they were together.
Rescue workers from across Florida and from Israel and Mexico are fighting the clock and trying to keep themselves safe from further collapse.
These situations are very tight, are very complicated. It's a situation where we try to think and believe there's hope always.
Questions are mounting over the cause of the collapse.
There was something very, very wrong at this building. Buildings in America just don't fall down like this.
The investigation into the cause could take months, but a 2018 report revealed several things, including major structural damage below the pool deck. In April, residents received a letter from the condo board president saying the damage has gotten significantly worse and the concrete deterioration is accelerating. An attorney for the condominium board says she didn't think the building was in a state of disrepair prior to the collapse.
The board is already in the process of hiring an engineer to also try to figure out what happened, and they will be evaluating who's responsible.
People are demanding answers.
Disbelief. You know, I'm heartbroken.
And praying for miracles.
Everyone's concerned, not just for my friend, but for everyone. Their safety, the glimmer of hope that just maybe somebody survived.
Delta. Health experts say this variant of COVID-19 spreads more easily and could be more dangerous as well. As Britt Conway reports, the likelihood of seeing an outbreak in your area might depend on where you live.
This problem is not going away.
Everyone should recognize this pandemic's not over. The virus hasn't gone.
In fact, it's still mutating. The Delta variant that ravaged India has now been identified in more than 85 countries, including the U.S., which is why world leaders are working together to ramp up global vaccine distribution.
As long as the virus is replicating somewhere, it's likely to be mutating. So we have to get ahead of this.
But right now, less than 11% of people around the world are fully vaccinated. Here in the U.S., more than 46% of people have been fully vaccinated. But Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Wyoming are among the states with the lowest vaccination rates.
And those are going to be the more vulnerable parts of this country. It's going to be hyper-regionalized, where there are certain pockets of the country where you can have very dense outbreaks.
In other words, fewer vaccinations could mean more outbreaks. At this church camp, the Crossing Camp in rural Illinois, 85 people who were there earlier this month, most of them teens, tested positive for COVID-19. The State Department of Public Health says everyone there was eligible to be vaccinated, but they were aware of only a handful of campers and staff receiving the vaccine.
The way out of this crisis is through vaccinations. Either you get vaccinated and you're exposed, so you're protected, or you don't get vaccinated and you're exposed and you get COVID and you take your chances.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
President Biden plans to strike while the iron is hot, hoping to rally support for the bipartisan infrastructure plan that came together last week. It's a classic Washington compromise where neither side seems thrilled, but the president says he's a big believer, heading to Wisconsin to talk up the benefits he says are coming. Mike Emanuel has more from Washington.
President Biden on his way to Wisconsin to talk up infrastructure and the jobs he says will come with it.
And to answer your direct question, we have a deal.
Last week, a bipartisan group of senators struck a deal, and President Biden praised it. It's a pricey package, $1.2 trillion, but not big enough, according to some progressives who want a much larger bill covering child care, climate change, and education. But the White House says it has the numbers.
We plan to pass them just like we did the rescue plan. People keep underestimating us, and we keep delivering.
They plan to deliver by passing the smaller bipartisan deal with Republican help and then passing the rest separately with a simple majority, bypassing the filibuster through reconciliation.
There ain't going to be no bipartisan bill unless we are going to have the reconciliation bill.
At first, President Biden said he would only sign the bipartisan deal if both bills passed. Then he backtracked over the weekend.
President Biden just said the quiet part out loud. The plan was to have him be Mr. Bipartisan while Nancy Pelosi plays tough partisan hardball.
If all 50 Democrats stick together, it would take 10 Republicans to pass the bipartisan bill through the Senate. But that's not a done deal because Minority Leader Mitch McConnell still hasn't signaled his support. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, a well-known pediatric health association is calling for all children to be screened for cardiac conditions. Why the American Academy of Pediatrics says those screenings should be part of a child's regular exam. And why they're also calling for doctors to delve into personal and family medical histories.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Attar. What a hot day today was with temperatures soaring into the 90s. You factor in the humidity and our heat index this afternoon. It was in the triple digits, so it was definitely unbearable. The humidity will stick around through your Thursday and then finally dropping down to a more bearable state. In fact, our dew points will be in the 50s by Friday, so drier air will start to move in as a cold front starts to sweep through our area, and so we're going to get some relief from all this heat. But for tomorrow, given how warm and humid it has been, we do have a cold front on the move, and as it moves and crosses and interacts with that humid and warm air, there is the possibility of strong to severe thunderstorms for tomorrow. The main threats will be damaging wind gusts, but there could also be some hail with these thunderstorms, and of course with any thunderstorms there could be some downpours, which flooding will be a concern for that. So just keep that in mind as we move into your Wednesday. And then on Thursday, a low pressure system spins through the Twin Tiers. It will drop cooler air from Canada right over our area, and so it is going to be a little bit drier and more refreshing. It's not going to be that muggy, humid air that we've been experiencing. So let's take a look at our future radar. A few isolated thunderstorms could be possible tonight with some heavy rain, and then by 7 o'clock it looks like it starts to taper off a little bit. A few isolated showers, and then the activity picks up again in the early afternoon into the evening, and there will be a few thunderstorms that will dump some heavy rain as well as that cold front pushes in. We are expecting to start off with cloudy conditions on Thursday with a few showers and then more rain possible by the afternoon. Of course, there's the possibility of a few thunderstorms as well. And then moving into your Friday, starting off with a little bit of cloud cover and then more rain possible in the afternoon, and it looks like it's going to be a little bit more widespread. So there will be periods of heavy rain. When we're talking about heavy rain, what are we expecting? Anywhere between 1.5 to 2 inches could be possible in many of our hometowns. 1.9 in Sayre and also in Elmira, around 1.8 inches in Bath. From now through the end of the day, on Friday. But for tonight, there will be a few thunderstorms with some heavy rain. Overnight lows will only drop down into the upper 60s. Highs tomorrow will be in the mid 80s, but again, with that humidity, it's going to feel just a little bit warmer. But again, with those thunderstorms, they will cool things down just ever so briefly. Here's a look at your forecast for the upcoming days. Highs only in the mid 70s, so it's going to feel a little bit better. Unlike the summer heat that we've been experiencing, there will be a few showers on Friday. Another system comes in over the weekend, bringing the possibility of some heavy rain for the 4th of July. Highs around 77, and it looks like we'll warm up into the 80s by early next week.
An estimated 7,000 children suffer a cardiac arrest out of the hospital each year. That's according to the American Heart Association. Now, a well-known pediatric health association is calling for all children to be screened for cardiac issues, not just athletes. Mandy Gaither explains in today's Health Minute.
Up until now, screenings for cardiac conditions in children have mostly been directed at athletes.
Cardiac arrest in children is a rare event, fortunately, but it is not a zero incidence at all.
In a statement published in the medical journal Pediatrics, the American Academy of Pediatrics is now calling for all children to be screened for conditions that could lead to cardiac arrest or death.
We are saying that no subpopulation of kids should be selected out from screening because all children could have a potential risk.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
The AAP says those screenings should be part of a child's regular exam and call for doctors to delve into personal and family medical history and ask questions like, has the child ever had exercise-related chest pain or shortness of breath?
If we identify one of these conditions, particularly before they have any kind of a sudden cardiac event, treatment can be initiated or at least that they can be monitored.
The statement also lists common conditions for primary care physicians to be aware of that could put young patients at risk, saying these screenings could save a life. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Authorities in Massachusetts are investigating a double murder over the weekend as a hate crime. That's after investigators say they found anti-Semitic and racist writings in the suspect's notebook. Christina Hager reports.
Hate has no home here, says the sign. In a late afternoon news conference, Suffolk District Attorney Rachel Rollins saying the gunman had hate in his heart when he shot and killed retired Massachusetts State Trooper and military veteran David Green and Air Force veteran Ramona Cooper.
And this person had some very disturbing beliefs, white supremacist beliefs regarding the Jewish members of our Jewish population, as well as black individuals.
He was such a wonderful person.
David Green's brother, Aria Green.
He heard that there was an accident, he went to investigate, see if he could help, which is something he would readily do.
Before taking Green's life, the DA says Nathan Allen slammed a truck he stole into this building, then shot and killed Cooper, an Air Force veteran who spent years after her service working with other veterans. Her son, Gary Cooper.
I got sick to my stomach when I found out about it was racially motivated.
Their family has such a wonderful reputation, and it's a sin. It's wrong.
Tony Catrone knew Green's family growing up.
They were all so nice, and my town. This is my town. We should never have to worry about that.
Back in business. The first cruise ship in months sailed out of a U.S. port over the weekend. After sitting idle during the pandemic, cruise industry leaders are hoping they're heading toward recovery. Mandy Gaither reports.
Some 15 months after the pandemic halted the cruise industry,
I did cartwheels just a minute ago. You missed me. That's how excited I am.
Celebrity Edge set sail once again from the U.S., the first ship to do so with a green light from the CDC since the start of the pandemic. Operating at 40% guest capacity, the cruise line also claimed to have a 99% vaccination rate on board.
I hope they have it figured out, and I hope that they keep us all safe.
The CDC recently lowered its cruise travel warning for vaccinated passengers. The agency still advises that all unvaccinated travelers avoid going on cruise ships.
This has been a horrible 15 months, and the losses are huge.
But with this ship setting sail, cruise industry leaders hope to be heading toward recovery. Aboard Celebrity Edge, staggered arrival and departure times help to avoid large crowds. Most passenger cabins are spaced out, and crew members have their own cabins because of reduced capacity. Buffet meals are still being offered, but served by crew rather than self-service. The ship also has additional medical resources on board in case of an outbreak, including capacity for 33 patients and 4 ICU beds.
The evidence is that there is a pent-up demand. The evidence is people want to get out of their homes. People want to go places and want to do things. And so I think the future is very bright.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The Federal Trade Commission has failed in its legal battle with Facebook. A federal judge dismissed an antitrust complaint against the social media company on Monday afternoon. The judge says the FTC could not prove that Facebook has a monopoly in social networking. The FTC said Facebook violated anti-monopoly laws by buying startups, including Instagram, and by not allowing other companies to plug into their services. This decision is a loss for antitrust regulators who wanted Facebook to be dissolved. Hallmark is allowing people to make cards for family and friends by phone. The company announced Sign and Send technology, where people can create their own cards, complete with handwritten messages. Users choose a Hallmark card, then upload a photo of a personal message. Hallmark takes the personal message, puts it together with a physical card, and then stamps it and sends it to the recipient at no additional charge. Hallmark officials say this will let people, quote, put more care into the world. Some beachgoers in California got quite a surprise when they noticed a family of bears was joining them. Marley Ginter reports on the day of beating the heat for animals and humans alike.
Not the sunbathers you'd expect to come across at the beach. Jen Watkins captured a mama bear with her 3 cubs at Pope Beach in South Lake Tahoe.
There was a little bit of like Yogi Bear in the whole situation.
Jen says mama bear first grabbed a family's cooler and started eating their leftovers, then decided on a family swim.
Here you are swimming, and there's a bear family swimming with you.
It was exciting. It was really, for the most part, people just stood back and were, enjoying the moment. It was super cute. We weren't at the zoo, but it felt like it.
We showed you this video at the same spot in 2016. Another mama bear and her 3 cubs swimming with everyone else like it was just another day at the beach. California Fish and Wildlife worries these beachside encounters are becoming more common.
Do you get concerned when you see videos like this popping up?
We absolutely get concerned. Because the more bears become accustomed to people, the more likelihood there is of some kind of potentially dangerous conflict.
Jen says it's clear bears are getting lax, but so are humans, hoping everyone remembers it's animal territory that people need to respect.
I just happened to be there and had a phone and took the video. I would never have gone any closer than what I got. Other people were a little bit more willing, let's put it that way.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight by sharing a smile with you. This is the new spokesbaby for Gerber. Meet 4-month-old Zane Kaheen of Florida. Gerber chose little Zane as the winner of this year's photo contest. The company says that means he will be the official taste tester for new baby food products. They're also giving him a title, Chief Growing Officer, which is a first for Gerber. The prize also includes $25,000 cash. The first Gerber baby who won the contest in 1928, Ann Turner Cook, is now 94 years old. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.